This is Land of Havilah, Isaiah 60. At the end of the last chapter, Yahweh began to describe an age when all the earth would fear his name. We recognize that immediately as the millennium. Then going on about it, he said a Redeemer would come to Zion. His covenant would be with his people, his words in their mouth forever. And continuing, he says, verse 1, Arise, shine, for your light has come, and Yahweh's glory has risen on you. For behold, darkness will cover the earth, and thick darkness the peoples. But Yahweh will arise on you, and his glory shall be seen on you. Nations will come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your rising. Lift up your eyes all around and see. They all gather themselves together. They come to you. Your sons will come from far away, and your daughters will be carried in arms. Then you shall see and be radiant, and your heart will thrill and be enlarged, because the abundance of the sea will be turned to you. The wealth of the nations will come to you. A multitude of camels will cover you, the dromedaries of Midian and Ephah. All from Sheba will come. They'll bring gold and frankincense and will proclaim the praises of Yahweh. All the flocks of Kedar will be gathered together to you. The rams of Nebaioth will serve you. They'll be accepted as offerings on my altar, and I will beautify my glorious house. Who are these who fly as a cloud and as the doves to their windows? Surely the islands will wait for me, and the ships of Tarshish first, to bring your sons from far, their silver and their gold with them, for the name of Yahweh your God, and for the Holy One of Israel, because he has glorified you. Comment, in Matthew 24, Jesus said immediately after the Great Tribulation he would come on the clouds of the sky with power and great glory. All the tribes of the earth would mourn, obviously because they're in rebellion and don't want to see him. He'll gather his chosen ones from the four winds, from one end of the sky to the other, and in the next chapter he adds that when he comes in glory he'll sit on his glorious throne. The same sequence is in Revelation, that there'll be a great tribulation, followed by Christ's return to establish his earthly kingdom. That kingdom will last for 1,000 years. It's the millennium. In verse 1 of the passage we just read, Jesus' coming will be like the dawn of day, because the tribulation will be a dark time, even with literal darkness, because the sun will be darkened toward the end of the tribulation. Then, quote, Arise, shine, for your light has come, and Yahweh's glory has risen on you, end quote. It's the bursting forth of light in the darkness. Then verse 2 elaborates on the same thing, quote, For behold, darkness will cover the earth, and thick darkness the peoples, but Yahweh will arise on you, and his glory will be seen on you, end quote. In verse 3, during the millennium there will be worldwide knowledge of the Lord and attraction to him, quote, Nations will come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your rising, end quote. It's reminiscent of chapter 2 that the nations stream to Zion to learn from the Lord. In verses 4 and 5, the sons and daughters of Jerusalem, or Zion, gather themselves to Zion from far away. Zion will be radiant and thrilled in heart to see her sons and daughters coming. In the same sentence, the abundance of the sea and wealth of nations will come to Zion. Wealth pours in verses 6 and 9 also, on camels bringing gold, silver, and frankincense. It comes in as tribute to the name of Yahweh in verse 9, in praise to Yahweh in verse 6, and because of the glory of his people in verse 9. We might assume that camels in verse 6 are representative of whatever transportation is available in those days, and the nations Midian, Ephah, Sheba, Kedar, and Nebaioth, and Tarshish are representative of all the nations of the world coming to worship and bringing their wealth. In verse 7, there's more confirmation that there will be a temple and animal sacrifices in the millennium. The flocks of Kedar and rams of Nebaioth will be accepted as offerings on Yahweh's altar, and Yahweh will glorify his beautiful house. As we said before, the sacrifices in the millennium will be commemorative of the cross and not performed for the sake of atonement. The fact that Kedar and Nebaioth are bringing the sacrifices speaks of pilgrimage to the temple from all over the world. In verse 8, doves fly to their windows, also translated lattices or roosts. Israelites kept roosts for doves and pigeons called dovecotes or columbaria. The birds foraged in the wild and came to the columbaria at night where they could be captured. Columbaria could have dozens of compartments. In verse 8, "Who are these who fly as a cloud as the doves to their windows?" End quote. The point is that Zion's children will migrate from all over the world as clouds of doves fly into their columbaria in the evening. Zion will attract the Lord's people. Now still speaking to Zion, Jerusalem, Israel, or God's people, verse 10, "Foreigners will build up your walls, and their kings will serve you. For in my wrath I struck you, but in my favor I have had mercy on you." Comment: Yahweh says, "In my wrath I struck you." As he described in Matthew 24, the tribulation will bring a great persecution, particularly to Israel. This is the striking, and we have to add in there the strikings with which Yahweh struck Israel throughout history. The strikings had their roots in the days of Moses. Yahweh laid out a path of obedience for Israel, from which would follow great blessing, and a path of disobedience for which he would send his wrath and great miseries, so terrible that the nations would be astounded at them, Deuteronomy 28:37. It turned out that disobedience prevailed through history, and Yahweh struck Israel multiple times. The Great Tribulation will be the final and worst striking, bad for the entire world, but worse for Israel, Matthew 24:15-21. So that was the striking, but in Yahweh's favor in verse 10, he'll have mercy by establishing his long-awaited kingdom. Now more about the wealth of the nations pouring in, verse 11. "Your gates also shall be opened continually. They shall not be shut day nor night, that men may bring to you the wealth of nations and their kings led captive. For that nation and kingdom that will not serve you shall perish. Yes, those nations shall be utterly wasted. The glory of Lebanon shall come to you, the cypress tree, the pine, and the box tree together, to beautify the place of my sanctuary, and I'll make the place of my feet glorious. The sons of those who afflicted you will come bowing to you, and all those who despised you will bow themselves down at the soles of your feet. They will call you Yahweh's city, the Zion of the Holy One of Israel. Whereas you have been forsaken and hated so that no one passed through you, I'll make you an eternal excellency, a joy of many generations. You'll also drink the milk of the nations and will nurse from royal breasts. Then you'll know that I, Yahweh, am your Savior, your Redeemer, the Mighty One of Jacob." Comment in verses 11-16, the Lord Jesus is ruling the world with a rod of iron, as he prophesied in Psalm 2:9, repeated in Revelation 2:27, 12:5, and 19:15. He'll cause the nations to serve his kingdom, and for any that won't, he'll utterly waste them in verse 12. In verse 13, he'll make the place of his feet glorious, that place being his sanctuary in verse 12, which is the millennial temple. The temple will be his residence and the place of his throne, Ezekiel 43:7. His glory will fill the temple, Ezekiel 43:5. In verse 14, the sons of those who afflicted you, meaning the descendants of the people responsible for persecuting God's people, will come bowing to you. There'll be no more persecution, and there'll be contrition regarding the persecutions of the past. In verse 14, they'll call you Yahweh's city and the Zion of the Holy One of Israel, which confirms that Yahweh has been speaking to his people all along in this prophecy, his people being Israel, and his people being every foreigner who has joined himself to Yahweh, Isaiah 56:6 and 7. Together they'll be called Yahweh's city and the Zion of the Holy One of Israel. In verse 60, you'll nurse from royal breasts, meaning kings and queens will bring their wealth and tribute. So there seems to be two classes of people in the millennium. Maybe we could say those who love and fear him, and those that just fear him will be required to serve, and who'll need a rod of iron to persuade them to serve. Regarding the prosperity of Zion in those days, verse 17, "For brass I'll bring gold, for iron I'll bring silver, for wood brass, and for stones iron. I'll also make peace your governor and righteousness your ruler. Violence shall be no more heard in your land, nor desolation or destruction within your borders, but you'll call your walls salvation and your gates praise. The sun will be no more your light by day, nor will the brightness of the moon give light to you. But Yahweh will be your everlasting light, and your God will be your glory. Your sun will not go down any more, nor will your moon withdraw itself, for Yahweh will be your everlasting light, and the days of your mourning will end. Then your people will all be righteous. They'll inherit the land forever, the branch of my planting, the work of my hands, that I may be glorified. The little one will become 1,000, and the small one a strong nation. I, Yahweh, will do this quickly in its time. Comment closing out the chapter in verses 17 to 22. Each verse refers to Zion and not the rest of the world. In verse 17, there will be an upgrade of every material. Instead of brass, gold; instead of iron, silver, and so forth. It was said Solomon made silver and gold as common as stones in Jerusalem, 1 Kings 10:27, which means Jerusalem was wealthy in Solomon's time, not that gold was literally as common as stones. So verse 17 may be similar rhetorical overstatement, just to make the point that Zion will be wealthy. In verse 18, in Zion there will be no violence or desolation, which speaks of the lack of crime and war. In verses 19 and 20, Yahweh will be the everlasting light of Zion, with no need for the light of the sun or moon. In verse 21, all the people of Zion will be righteous. And in verse 21, they'll inherit the land forever, which fulfills God's promise to Abraham, Genesis 13, 14 to 17, and 17:8. The possession will carry over into the new heaven and earth of eternity. In verse 22, there'll be reproduction in the millennium. Quote, the little one will become 1,000, and the small one a strong nation. End quote. Then in closing, Yahweh seals the prophecy with an oath. Quote, I, Yahweh, will do this quickly in its time. End quote. As implied, the millennium will arrive at a set time. When the disciples asked Jesus when the millennium would come, he said, in effect, the Father has set the time, but he's keeping that information to himself. Acts 1, 6 and 7. Isaiah 61 is next.